Hi, I'm Trisha. I am so excited to tell you about something that I've just launched for teachers. It's a blog called Classroom Keys. The intent of the blog is to equip and encourage teachers with some faith-based tips and strategies for classroom management. Now, I write from the perspective of a public school teacher and how to address classroom management from another perspective, but also stay within the legal limits of the public education system. However, whether you're a public school teacher, private school teacher, homeschool teacher, I really do believe that you'll find some things that will benefit you and your students in your classroom. Now, let me tell you how I came about this blog and how I found myself on this journey. I taught for 15 years. I taught middle school Spanish. And for the first 10 years of my teaching, my classroom management plan was going just fine. I was really known in my school for having very good classroom management. I built relationships with students. My students and I had a good rapport. And of course, there was always the occasional disruption that would occur in any classroom. But for the most part, we were getting along just fine. And then one day it happened. I had been teaching for about 10 years, and all of a sudden I had 3 of the most challenging students in my building enrolled in my Spanish class in the same class period. In fact, they were known in our school as the trifecta because they created chaos together wherever they went, and I had the privilege of teaching them all at once. And all of a sudden, everything that I had tried before, it wasn't working. I worked on building relationships. I built rapport with them. I worked on building relationships with even their parents. Nothing that I tried was working. I affirmed them. And it literally felt like all hell had broken loose in my classroom. So one day, something just hit me. I realized something. I had seen God show up in my life in so many other areas. I had seen my parents' marriage be restored after they had been divorced for 7 years. I had seen God miraculously heal my mom from a large cancerous mass in both her pancreas and then in her liver as well. And so I had already seen the power of God at work. And I thought to myself, you know what? I've been praying for me and I would pray for my students, but I don't know that I have really asked for the power of God to be at work in my classroom. And so I went on a journey with God and I let Him show me how to manage my classroom with Him. No one really even knew. My administrators didn't know. My closest friends knew what I was doing in my classroom and how some things that I had changed, some ways that I was praying, some things that I was doing that were affecting change. And it really did begin to work. Now, I can't say that there was never a problem in my classroom. We all have problems that we encounter, but the major disruptions that I was facing with those 3 students, they began to fizzle out, they began to simmer down, and the atmosphere changed so that learning could occur in the classroom. So one day, shortly after that, and this was close to my time of actually leaving the public school system for a time, I encountered a woman. She was an acquaintance of mine, a friend of a friend, and she was telling me that she was a long-term substitute in a school in Kansas. And she was subbing in a classroom where every day she was subbing with severely challenged students. And every day she was coming home bit, hit, scratched, and she just felt so discouraged, and she was telling me how discouraged she was. And I just knew that I had to share with her. And so in about 5 minutes at the Home and Garden Show in Oklahoma City, I think it was the Affair of the Heart show in Oklahoma City, I took some time and I shared with her the things that God had taught me to do in my classroom. I prayed for her, and we went on about our separate ways. I think that was in October. I heard back from her in February of just a few months later of the following year, though, in February, I heard from her and she said, it worked. It worked so much so that other people in the school were coming up to her saying, "What have you done differently?" Because now all of a sudden, these kids, they're behaving in your classroom. They're not causing the major disruptions that they were before. And of course, just like I experienced, there were always some small minor disruptions, but the major disruptions ceased. And I knew that God had given me a key. And so I was leaving the classroom, going on to do some other things, still having quite a heart for education, and I knew that He had given me a key of something to encourage teachers with. So here I am a few years later, and I have created a blog called Classroom Keys. And the purpose of the blog is to give you keys for your classroom to unlock student learning by working with God, for the power of God to be active in your classroom, blessing student lives, but also managing the learning environment, managing the atmosphere so that these students can be blessed. Now, if you are interested in this, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel because I'll continue to post videos. You can also visit the blog at classroomkeys.com, and we'll include the link below. Feel free to comment. Let us know if this is something that you're interested in, and God bless.